The most magnificent farm in the region, famous for breeding prestigious purebred horses, belonged to Mr. Davis Thompson. A man who lived for perfection, Davis was strong-looking, with neatly groomed golden brown hair. That morning, he passed by the horse stables, followed by his loyal assistant James in his signature riding outfit. With a sharp gaze, Davis commented, "The horses seem slower today." James quickly noted his words. But what was special about that morning was the birth of 3 foals, the offspring of the 2 most famous horses on the farm. Boney, a mare who had won many competitions, and Loy, a strong stallion. When Davis stopped in front of the stable, the 3 foals were wobbling, trying to stand on their tiny legs, their eyes weak and blurry. Davis looked at them for a moment, his voice filled with contempt. "Are these children of Boney and Loy? Unacceptable. They are weak and useless." James tried to explain that they were only a few hours old, needing time and care, but Davis interrupted. "Get them out of here immediately. They have no future here." The order was carried out, and that evening the 3 foals were loaded onto an old cart, trembling and fearful, and taken to a desolate place. But their fate changed when the cart stopped near the small house of Angelina Jolie, a young girl with blonde hair and eyes full of kindness. Angelina was known for her love of animals. Hearing the sound of the engine, she went outside and saw the 3 foals. Seeing them as weak and helpless, she could not leave them alone. They were tiny, fragile, barely able to endure. Their cries sounded like sobs. "Why leave them here?" A man spoke, his voice tinged with concern. "It is not our problem," the other man replied coldly. "The boss said to leave them behind, and that is what we are going to do. Let's get out of here before anyone sees us." Angelina silently watched from her hiding spot, her heart aching as the men climbed back into the truck and drove away. They left the 3 foals shivering in the freezing field. She waited until the sound of the engine faded, then stepped out from her hiding place and slowly approached the frightened animals. Carefully, Angelina stopped a few steps from them, bending down gently. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice soft and soothing. "I won't hurt you." The smallest one, with shiny black fur and a white blaze streak on its forehead, hesitated before sniffing her hand. Angelina smiled, letting the little creature sniff her hand before gently petting its head. "You're shivering," she murmured, her eyes full of concern as she looked at them. "I wonder who could be so cruel." Her voice was heavy with sadness. "But I won't leave you." With steady hands and infinite patience, Angelina led the 3 foals to her home. It was a tiring job, but she didn't give up. When they finally arrived, she quickly prepared a shelter in the small barn. Old blankets were spread over their trembling bodies, and she warmed some milk with what little she had in the kitchen. That night, as the wind howled through the trees, Angelina sat beside them, whispering words of comfort. "You'll be okay. No one can hurt you here." The world outside her home could be harsh, but in the small corner of this forest, the abandoned foals had found a haven of love and hope. The next day, Angelina set to work improving their living conditions. Though modest, she did her best to create the best possible environment. The 3 foals, each with a different personality, were given names. The smallest, black one, was Blaze, the gray one was Buck, and the shy reddish-brown one was Lazer. That day, Angelina poured all her energy into caring for the 3 weak foals she had rescued. She woke up early, prepared warm milk, and gently massaged their legs to strengthen their frail muscles. Angelina read old books on horse care and taught herself how to prepare herbal remedies to improve their health and immune systems. As the days passed, small but significant signs of progress began to appear. Buck was the first to run without tripping, exploring the stable with increasing curiosity. Lazer was slower, taking cautious steps, but still progressing. Blaze, though the weakest, preferred to stay close to Angelina, his eyes full of trust. But Angelina knew that simply nurturing and protecting them wasn't enough. They needed to learn how to run, become strong, and have a future. Every morning she leads them to the nearby meadow, where the hills are covered in soft grass and the morning air is fresh. With patience and dedication, Angelina encourages them to run after her, using the lead rope to guide them. At first they struggle, their legs trembling. But over time their steps become more stable, and their movements gradually become more graceful. "Come on, Blaze, you can do it!" Angelina cheers, running just ahead of the little horse. "You're stronger than you think." Not everyone in the village understands Angelina's dedication. Some people look at her with doubt, wondering why she bothers with these weak horses. One afternoon, as she was hauling a bale of hay to the barn, an older man stopped her and asked, "Why do you care so much about them?" Angelina simply replied, "Because no one else will." For Angelina, these horses are not just abandoned animals. They are embodiments of potential and resilience. One afternoon, while training them, she noticed something special about Blaze. Although he was the smallest horse, his endurance far surpassed the others. While the others took a break, Blaze kept running, determined not to fall behind. Angelina smiled and said, "He's going to be a champion. I'm sure of it." As time passed, under Angelina's care, the once weak horses grew strong. Their muscles became firm, their strides more enduring, and their eyes sparkled with confidence. But Angelina knew the real challenge was still ahead. One day they would have to prove their worth, not only to establish their own identities, but also to honor the love and dedication Angelina had given them. 4 years after that fateful day, Buck, Lazer, and Blaze had grown into beautiful, strong, and agile horses. Angelina, now a young woman full of determination, no longer saw them as rescued horses but as companions who had stood by her through adversity. The small meadow was now just a memory. Through hard work, Angelina expanded her land, built a modern stable, and created a professional training ground. Those who had once doubted her now sought her out to train their horses. Along with Buck, Lazer, and Blaze, Angelina proved that love and patience could turn the impossible into reality. On a sunny morning, as Angelina was grooming her beloved horse in the stable, a man in a neat uniform appeared at the end of the road leading to her farm. He walked up, adjusted his hat, and stopped in front of Angelina. "Angelina Jolie?" he asked politely. "Yes, that's me," Angelina replied, setting the brush down and walking toward him with curiosity. "It's a pleasure to meet you," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Jason Grace, representing the Path to Glory organization. We've heard about your work and the talent of your horses. We'd like to officially invite you to participate in this year's event." Angelina was stunned. She knew all about Path to Glory, a prestigious equestrian competition reserved only for the finest breeders. Being invited was an honor she had never dared to dream of. Swallowing the overwhelming emotion, she replied, "Thank you. I'm honored to participate. But I don't run a large farm. I only have 3 horses." Jason smiled and said, "Sometimes it's not about the quantity but the quality. We're eager to see your horses perform. I'm sure they have something special." Angelina accepted the invitation, both excited and nervous. In the days that followed, she poured her heart and soul into preparing Blaze, Buck, and Lazer. Though they had been thoroughly trained, she knew their competition would be the best horses in the region, including those from Mr. Davis's famous farm. The day of the competition arrived faster than expected. The event took place in a large arena, surrounded by stands packed with spectators. The sound of hooves echoed everywhere, blending with the cheers of the crowd. Angelina led Blaze, Buck, and Lazer into the stable area. Though her horses exuded vitality, she still felt overshadowed by the grandeur of the other horses. As she was preparing, a familiar voice called out, "What are you doing here?" Angelina turned around and saw Mr. Davis, the man who had abandoned her horses years ago. Beside him stood a majestic brown horse, Mr. Davis stared at her with a look that was both surprised and disdainful. "I was invited, Mr. Davis," Angelina replied calmly, though her heart was racing. "Invited?" He raised an eyebrow. "With those horses?" Angelina clenched her jaw, determined to say, "Yes, with these horses, and they are no longer the animals you abandoned." Davis's expression darkened, but before he could respond, an assistant arrived to inform him that he needed to be at the main arena. The obstacle course race, the first event, was about to begin. Angelina observed the other competitors, particularly Davis's horse. They performed flawlessly, causing the crowd to erupt in applause. When her name was called, Angelina led Blaze to the track. She whispered in the horse's ear, "Today, we show them no one can stop us." Blaze surged forward. Each step, each jump, was executed with grace and precision, drawing gasps of awe from the audience. As they finished the course, the arena erupted in thunderous applause for Angelina. The real victory, however, wasn't the cheers, but the look in Blaze's eyes as if saying, "We did it." That day was just the beginning. As Angelina gently patted Blaze's neck, she felt the atmosphere shift. Former competitors who had once underestimated her now looked at her with respect. But Angelina knew their journey was far from over, with many challenges ahead. Buck and Lazer were eagerly waiting for their moment. The next test was a grueling race, pushing both speed and endurance to their limits. This wasn't just a physical test, but also a measure of willpower. With his strong build and unyielding spirit, Buck was ready to face any challenge. Angelina had prepared everything meticulously, from the saddle to the smallest details. "This is your moment, Buck," she whispered, her voice firm yet encouraging. Buck raised his head as if understanding her words. When the signal sounded, he shot forward like lightning. His hooves struck the ground with such force, resonating through the hearts of every spectator. The jumps over obstacles were executed with absolute precision and power. Mid-race, a competitor riding a similarly large horse attempted to overtake Buck, but he remained undeterred, surging forward with the determination to leave his challenger behind. Angelina, watching from the sidelines, had her heart racing with each stride, knowing that every step Buck took was the result of years of effort and unwavering belief. When Buck crossed the finish line first, the applause was deafening. He had not only won but had also proven his strength and indomitable spirit. Leading Buck back to the stables, Angelina noticed Mr. Davis standing at a distance. His expression was a mix of surprise and reluctant acknowledgement of the truth. The final test was the performance event. This was the perfect stage for Lazer, the once timid horse who had now become confident and graceful. Under Angelina's guidance, Lazer executed moves as smoothly as a dance. The connection between Angelina and Lazer was mesmerizing, and the performance ended with a wave of enthusiastic applause. As they returned to the stables, Mr. Davis stood there again. His gaze swept over Blaze, Buck, and Lazer as he said, "I want to buy them. I'll pay triple the market price." But Angelina was firm. "They are not for sale, Mr. Davis. They are not just horses. They are my family." The three horses had shown that true strength was not only physical but also spiritual and emotional, a concept Mr. Davis had never understood. Davis's frown deepened, but before he could respond, a voice broke the tense silence. Jason Grace, representative of the Path to Glory horse racing competition, hurried over. His voice was filled with excitement. "I have to congratulate you. Your horses have left everyone speechless. I'm sure tomorrow's finale will be unforgettable." Davis glanced at Jason, his expression a mix of anger and reluctant acceptance. He realized that Angelina and her horses had gained something far more valuable than money: respect and admiration. As Davis walked away, Angelina turned to Blaze, Buck, and Lazer, lovingly stroking their necks. In a gentle, affectionate voice, she whispered, "No matter what happens tomorrow, you are already champions." That night, as the horses rested in their stalls, Angelina sat beneath the vast, starry sky. The memories of their challenging journey filled her mind, every obstacle they had overcome together. Tomorrow's finale will be a big test. As dawn broke on the final day of the Path to Glory competition, the air was thick with anticipation and excitement. The bright morning sunlight bathed the main track, creating the perfect stage for the final challenge. Angelina carefully tended to Blaze, Buck, and Lazer. Despite the simmering tension, her every action was calm and thoughtful. She believed in her horses. They were ready. At the arena, the audience buzzed with chatter, whispers circulating about Angelina's 3 horses. Many regarded them as a miracle, and some boldly predicted they would win the finale. On the contrary, Davis stood there, occasionally glancing at Angelina. His expression was full of discomfort, somewhere between envy and determination. The grand final consisted of 3 stages, each focusing on a specific skill. The judges not only evaluated the technique but also took into account the bond between the trainer and the horse, a field where Angelina always felt confident. In the first endurance race, Buck would be the horse to compete. Before the start, Angelina gently whispered in his ear, "This is just another ride for us. Trust in what I know." When the bell rang, Buck bolted forward. His hooves struck the ground with the sound of thunder. Buck cleared each obstacle, from ditches to fallen logs, with strength and precision that left the competitors in awe. As they reached the final stretch, a steep hill that tested their endurance, the other horses faltered, but Buck remained unwavering. He continued forward, powering over the top of the hill and heading toward the finish line. The sound of applause filled the air, marking a moment everyone would never forget. As Angelina hurried toward him, her hand brushed through Buck's sweaty coat and she whispered, "Buck, I knew you could do it." Pride gleamed in her eyes. The second race was a test of agility and precision, perfect for Lazer. This phase required a delicate combination of sharp turns, high jumps, and seamless coordination with the trainer. As Angelina guided Lazer onto the track, she stroked his smooth coat and whispered, "Lazer, we've practiced this thousands of times. I believe in you." When the test began, Lazer moved as if he possessed supernatural grace. Each turn was perfect. Every jump seemed to defy gravity. The audience held their breath as they witnessed his elegance and flawless precision. In a particularly challenging section, where many competitors stumbled, Lazer breezed through with confidence, receiving a thunderous round of applause. As the round concluded, Angelina embraced Lazer tightly, her voice trembling with emotion. "You were amazing." She led him back to the stable, her heart full of pride for the unshakable bond between them. The final stage was the toughest challenge, a synchronized routine requiring all 3 horses to move in perfect harmony. Speed and teamwork were the deciding factors as they navigated a complicated course filled with obstacles. Before the competition, Angelina felt the pressure. Many in the crowd still doubted, thinking the 3 abandoned horses stood no chance against the prestigious champions. But Angelina knew better than anyone. Blaze, Buck, and Lazer shared a special bond, trust, and love. As the trio entered the arena, the murmurs of the crowd gradually faded. The 3 horses moved with confidence, their manes flowing like flags in the wind. Their steps were in perfect harmony, like a flawless symphony. Buck led the way, with Blaze and Lazer close behind. Their powerful and precise jumps mesmerized the audience. The final challenge appeared, a towering obstacle that required faith and flawless coordination. When all 3 soared over it in a single beautiful moment, the crowd erupted into a deafening applause. Angelina approached her horses, tears sparkling in her eyes. "You did it," she whispered, stroking each horse's head. "We've proven that when we're together, we can't be beaten." From afar, Davis watched with a mixture of defeat and admiration. But Angelina didn't need his recognition. What mattered most stood right in front of her. Blaze, Buck, and Lazer, the once rejected horses, now the heart of the great race. As the sun set, the sky ablaze with orange and purple, the judges deliberated over the scores. Angelina stood in the quiet corner of the stable, surrounded by the warm presence of her 3 horses. Though exhausted, she felt a sense of fulfillment, a victory not only on the track but also in her heart. The 3 horses stood still, their faces alert, ears tuned to the faint whispers from the crowd. Angelina gently cared for them, wiping sweat from their bodies with a damp cloth, whispering words of affection. "Thank you for giving your all," she said, her hand caressing Buck's back. "No matter what the judges decide, you will always be champions in my eyes." As Angelina focused on her horses, a shadow appeared and moved closer. She looked up to see Davis standing in front of her, dressed in linen, his face more serious than usual. "You've done something remarkable," Davis said, crossing his arms. "I expected nothing less from those horses. After all, they carry my champion bloodline." Angelina pressed her lips together, swallowing her bitter retort. Instead, she stood up, maintaining a steady voice. "Yes, they do come from strong bloodlines," she said. "But their true strength lies not in their blood, but in their hearts, and that has nothing to do with you." Mr. Davis looked at her for a moment, a fleeting look of admiration appearing, but soon the familiar arrogance returned to his face. "I'm willing to correct my mistake," he declared, pulling out a blank check. "Name your price. I want all 3 horses back. I see their value now, and I'm ready to pay anything." Angelina felt a flash of indignation mixed with a strange sense of satisfaction. She had imagined this moment when Mr. Davis would admit his mistake, but his offer was nothing more than a meaningless transaction. "They're not for sale," she replied firmly, looking him straight in the eye. "I didn't save them just to return them to the one who abandoned them when they needed you most. These horses are not commodities to be bought and sold. They're my family." Mr. Davis furrowed his brow, unaccustomed to rejection. He stepped closer, his voice raised. "You're a fool. Those horses come from my breeding program. I invested in them from the start." Angelina stood her ground, her chin raised in resolve. "True ownership doesn't come from money, but from love and sacrifice," she said. "I took care of them when no one else would. I fed them, healed them, and taught them to trust again. That's something you'll never be able to do." "Mr." Davis opened his mouth to argue, but before he could speak, an announcement rang out over the loudspeaker, capturing everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The judges have made their decision. We request all contestants to proceed to the main arena for the announcement of the winner." Angelina glanced at Mr. Davis one last time before turning back to her horses. "Come on, my beautiful girls. Let's claim what truly matters," she said, as she led Blaze, Buck, and Lazer toward the arena. The audience erupted in applause. The 3 horses moved with graceful nobility, clearly showing their humble beginnings. Each step they took told the story of their journey from weak, abandoned creatures to living legends. The host's voice echoed throughout the arena as he held the microphone. "This year's path to glory is not just an impressive display, but a showcase of perseverance, love, and triumph over adversity. I am honored to announce that the winning team this year is Angelina Jolie and her horses, Blaze, Buck, and Lazer." The crowd erupted in cheers, and the applause was deafening. Tears blurred Angelina's vision as she hugged her horses tightly, each one a symbol of the hardships they had overcome together. Blaze gently rested his head on her shoulder, as if understanding the significance of the moment. At the center of the arena, holding the trophy, Angelina's gaze swept across the cheering crowd until it locked with Mr. Davis, standing in the shadows, his arms crossed, his expression tense. For the first time, the powerful millionaire seemed overshadowed by the brilliance of the horses he had once abandoned. Angelina raised the trophy high, not as a symbol of personal victory, but as a tribute to Blaze, Buck, and Lazer, the true heroes of this story. That night, The Path to Glory victory celebration lasted late into the evening. The applause still echoed in her mind as Angelina returned to the humble stable. Blaze, Buck, and Lazer walked alongside her, pride evident in their every step. Angelina cared for each of them, wiping away sweat, brushing their coats, and preparing a special meal. When she was done, she sat on a pile of hay, watching her 3 champions rest in their stalls. "You are my greatest pride," she whispered. Blaze lifted his head, giving a soft nicker as though understanding it all. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps approached. Angelina turned and saw Jason, the representative of Path to Glory, walking in with a warm smile. "Sorry to bother you so late, Angelina," he said, tipping his hat respectfully. "But I wanted to speak with you before this day ends." Angelina sat up, curious. "What is it, Jason?" Jason leaned against the stable door, his gaze full of admiration as he looked at the horses. "Today you didn't just win a competition, you inspired everyone. You and your horses are living proof of the power of love and perseverance." Angelina smiled, slightly embarrassed. "Thank you, but it's all because of them. I just gave them a chance." "And that chance made them champions," Jason said. "That's why I want to invite you to something special. We've received an invitation to an international event in France, a high-level competition with the best teams from around the world. I want you and your horses to represent our region." Angelina's eyes widened in surprise. "France? An international competition?" she repeated, with a hint of skepticism. Jason nodded, a smile full of eagerness spreading across his face. "Yes, it won't be easy, but I'm sure you and your horses are more than capable of shining. Besides, this is a great opportunity for the world to see what you've achieved." Angelina's heart raced in her chest as she thought about the idea of entering Blaze, Buck, and Lazer into an international competition. The grand stage not only excited her but also made her feel the pressure. She looked over at the horses resting nearby. Their achievements were already impressive. But were they ready to face such a huge challenge? "Let me think about it some more, Jason," she finally replied, offering a grateful smile. "This is a big decision, and I need to make sure it's the best thing for them." "Of course," Jason said, rising to his feet. "Take your time. I just want you to know that we trust you and will always support you." After Jason left, Angelina remained in the stable. Her mind was filled with thoughts of the opportunity to compete at an international level, something she had never imagined before. She knew it would require tremendous effort from both her and the horses. As night fell, the steady breathing of Blaze, Buck, and Lazer filled the air, helping her calm down. No matter how big the challenge, Angelina knew that as long as they stood together, they could overcome anything. But not everyone could remain as calm as she did. Not far from the farm, in his vast mansion, Mr. Davis sat restlessly in his office. A glass of wine rested on the desk next to a framed picture of the 3 horses from the early days at his breeding stable. The bitter defeat at Path to Glory still haunted him. "Those horses should have been mine," he muttered, his gaze fixed on the photo. "I won't let some country girl take what belongs to me." He took a sip of wine, a sinister smile curling on his lips. If he couldn't buy them back, he would find another way to reclaim them. To Mr. Davis, they weren't just horses. They were symbols of heritage, treasures he could not afford to lose. While Angelina and her horses rested peacefully, they were unaware of the storm quietly brewing. The road to the international competition would test not just their skill and endurance, but also present unpredictable dangers. The next morning, Angelina woke up early before the first light of dawn. From the window, she saw the stable and the racetrack bathed in the stillness of the morning. It was the calm before a day filled with important decisions. As she prepared, her mind kept returning to the invitation to the international tournament in France. It was a dream, but also an enormous responsibility. With excitement mixed with anxiety, Angelina decided to step outside, heading toward the training grounds. Buck raised his head curiously as Angelina approached. "Good morning, champion," she said, gently stroking his neck. "Today we'll make a big decision, but whatever happens, we'll face it together." Buck whinnied softly, as if he understood her words, while Lazer remained calm but sharp-eyed. The gaze from their eyes gave Angelina newfound strength. She spent the next few hours practicing, fine-tuning each jump, each stride, and every turn. By midday, she led them back to the stable for a rest, preparing mentally for the challenges ahead. The risks were great, but Angelina believed that as long as they stood united, nothing was impossible. While the horses grazed peacefully in the fields, Angelina sat in a quiet corner of the stable, her mind spinning with endless thoughts. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on her chest, the uncertainty casting a shadow over the moment, as her life could change forever. She wasn't sure if she was ready for it. Just then, her phone rang. Jason Grayson's voice came through the line, calm yet tinged with urgency. "Angelina, I've thought about my proposal and I want to discuss it with you directly," Jason began. "I know this is a big decision, but I want you to consider it carefully. This competition isn't just about winning, it's also an opportunity for your horses to shine on the international stage. I believe they not only can compete, but they can inspire people all over the world." Angelina listened quietly, her heart and mind wrestling with his words. Jason had always believed in her, and his unwavering support had given her strength, even in moments of doubt. But she knew the biggest challenge wasn't the competition itself, but everything it represented. "I want to give them the best," she told herself. "But am I truly ready for this step?" After a deep breath, she answered in a calm but firm voice, "Let me think about it a bit more, Jason. I'll give you my answer in the next few hours." As she hung up, her thoughts grew deeper. Was she sure this was the right decision for all of them? Sometimes the hardest path brings the greatest reward, but that staircase was so high that she still hesitated. After a night of reflection, Angelina finally knew what she had to do. This wasn't just a competition. It was an opportunity to prove that with love, resilience, and courage, anything is possible. Without further hesitation, she picked up the phone and called Jason. "I'm in," she said decisively. "France, here we come." The next morning, the fresh air of France carried with it a buzz of excitement as the competition grounds came alive. Horses from all over the world were ready for the international championship. The stands were packed, and the atmosphere at the International Equestrian Championship was filled with exhilaration. Only minutes remained before the spectators eagerly awaited the competition between the world's finest riders and horses. Among them, Angelina stood quietly, her gaze following her horses. Each horse was not only a teammate but a living testament to the difficult journey she had been through. For Angelina, they were not just animals, they were family. She bent down and gently stroked Blaze's neck, whispering, "Let's do this, boys. This is our moment. I believe in you." The sound of hooves echoed through the arena, signaling that the decisive moment had arrived. As the competition began, silence fell over the arena. The riders expertly guided their sleek thoroughbreds with precision, but Angelina remained undeterred. She knew that the true strength of her horses lay not only in their ability to jump obstacles or sprint, but in their unwavering spirit, the very thing that had brought them to this moment. Under Angelina's guidance, Blaze moved with astonishing confidence and finesse. Alongside them, Buck and Lazer, two other horses in the team, were skillfully guided by their riders, accompanying them step by step. Each obstacle was a challenge demanding absolute perfection. But for Angelina, every jump was not just about winning. It was about overcoming the wounds and challenges of the past. From the VIP area, Davis Thompson, who had once abandoned these horses, watched intently with a calculating look in his eyes. "They should belong to me," he muttered, anger rising as he witnessed their brilliance under Angelina's leadership. As the competition neared its end, Davis unexpectedly stepped onto the racecourse, deliberately causing a disturbance to try and hinder Angelina. However, Angelina was unfazed. With fierce determination, she tightened the reins and guided Blaze over the final obstacle, the toughest challenge yet. In that crucial moment, Blaze leaped with grace and extraordinary strength, clearing the highest barrier flawlessly. The crowd erupted into cheers, clapping continuously. Angelina glanced back and saw Davis standing motionless. His face was a mix of anger and reluctant respect. He understood that Angelina had not only defeated him with her riding skills, but also with her heart full of resolve. This wasn't just a victory for Angelina. It was a testament to her indomitable spirit and the horses who had been by her side throughout the long journey. "We did it," Angelina whispered, smiling at Blaze. In that moment, she proved that the impossible is within reach, if you dare to dream and fight for it. As the event came to a close, Angelina and her horses received a roaring ovation as the champion was crowned. The cheers and admiration from the international equestrian community filled the stands. However, as Angelina hugs Blaze, Buck, and Lazer, she understands that the real victory isn't the trophy, but the challenges they overcame together. Meanwhile, Mr. Davis faced the competition committee members who were investigating his attempted interference. While there was no direct evidence, the incident had tarnished his reputation in the horse racing world. The silence and simmering discontent in the community forced Davis to leave the arena. His once feared presence now diminished. For Angelina, the victory was not just about reclaiming her horses. It was proof that resilience, courage, and a sincere heart could overcome any obstacle. The defeat of those who tried to sabotage her was not only played out on the racecourse, but exposed before the public, proving that honor cannot be bought. Holding the trophy in her hands, with Buck and Lazer by her side, Angelina felt the weight of her achievement. This was not just a personal victory, but a lesson for everyone watching. Although Davis had relied on money and power to secure success, today showed the world that respect and loyalty cannot be bought. The horses that were once abandoned have now become champions. As the cheers in the arena gradually faded, Angelina and the horses retreated to the stable. The wind blew strongly, but she was filled with a sense of peace and contentment. Buck and Lazer walked gracefully beside her, a testament to the power of love and relentless effort. As Angelina stroked Buck's neck, she smiled, her voice filled with pride. "We did it, my friend. We've overcome even what we once dreamed of." Beside her, Jason, who had always been watching, shouted out, his eyes full of admiration, "Angelina, you did it!" Angelina stood beside Buck and Lazer, gazing out at the vast blue sky. A sense of accomplishment filled her heart, but what made her happiest were the things that could not be bought: friendship, loyalty, and relentless effort. The horses that were once abandoned had now risen to become brave warriors. All the hardships had become memories, and now they had all reached the pinnacle of glory together. She turned to look at Jason, their eyes meeting in a silent understanding. No words were needed, just a gentle smile. They both knew that this was only the beginning of a new journey, where they would continue to walk forward together, overcoming whatever challenges lay ahead. Thank you for joining me on this journey. The lessons of friendship, loyalty, and perseverance are powerful sources of inspiration in life. I hope you continue to find encouragement and strength in stories like these. See you again in the next adventures.